black sedan, loses control, flips 3 times, lands upside down, smoke rising, gasoline spreading. A woman inside, barely conscious, trapped in twisted metal. Jake Foster has maybe 40 seconds before that car becomes a coffin. His hands are shaking. He's already late for work. His little girl is waiting for him at home, but he can see that hand pressed against the shattered window, and he knows drive away or risk everything for a stranger. He chose the fire. What Jake didn't know, that stranger wasn't just anyone. She was about to become his boss, and his one act of courage was about to unravel a future he never imagined possible. This is what happened next. Before we continue, let us know in the comment section where in the world you're tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories reach. And if this story speaks to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Jake's beat-up Honda sat idling on the shoulder, windshield wipers, fighting a losing battle against the rain. Every instinct told him to keep driving. Other cars were slowing down, sure, but they weren't stopping. Someone would call 911. Someone else would handle it. He had to get to Patterson's auto repair. Mr. Patterson had made it crystal clear last week. One more tardy and Jake was out. But that hand, that desperate hand pressing against the cracked glass. God help me, Jake muttered, throwing the car into park. He ran toward the wreckage, shoes splashing through puddles, rain hammering his face. The closer he got, the worse it looked. The entire front end was accordion folded, the roof caved in, and that smell, gasoline, sharp and suffocating, pooling beneath the overturned vehicle in a dark, spreading stain. Jake dropped to his knees beside the driver's window. Inside, hanging upside down from her seatbelt, was a young woman in a grey business suit. Blood streaked down her forehead from her hairline. Her eyes fluttered, trying to focus. "Can you hear me?" Jake shouted over the rain. Her lips moved, barely a whisper. "Help, please." Jake grabbed the door handle and yanked. Nothing. He pulled harder, putting his full weight into it. The metal groaned but didn't budge. Smoke was getting thicker now, grey tendrils curling out from under the crumpled hood. Okay, think," Jake said, his heart slamming against his ribs. He looked around frantically and spotted a jagged piece of concrete near the guardrail. He grabbed it and smashed it against the window. Once, twice. The glass spider-webbed, then shattered on the third hit. "I'm getting you out," Jake said, reaching through the opening. His hand found her shoulder. "What's your name?" "Olivia." Her voice was faint, slipping. "I can't feel my hands." "Olivia, stay with me. Look at me." Jake's fingers fumbled with the seatbelt buckle, jammed. The impact had twisted the metal mechanism into something unrecognizable. Come on. Behind him, someone yelled, "Fire department's coming. Get away from there." But Jake could see the orange glow now, flickering to life inside the engine compartment. They didn't have minutes. They had seconds. His work jacket, the small box cutter in the pocket, he used it every day to open parts shipments at the garage. Jake pulled it out with shaking hands and started sawing through the seatbelt fabric. "My father," Olivia mumbled, her head lolling to the side. "Need to tell him. The presentation." "You'll tell him yourself," Jake said through gritted teeth, cutting faster. The blade was dull, the fabric thick. "Just stay awake, Olivia. Stay with me." The last thread split. Olivia's body dropped, and Jake caught her, his arms straining as he maneuvered her limp form through the window. She cried out, a sharp sound of pain that made Jake's stomach twist. I know. I'm sorry," he said, dragging her across the broken glass and wet pavement. His hands screamed in protest, cut and scraped, but he didn't stop, couldn't stop. 10 feet from the car, then 15. The whoosh of ignition hit his ears first, then the heat, a wall of it that made Jake's back feel like it was burning even through his jacket. "Get down," someone screamed. Jake threw himself over Olivia, making his body a shield as flames engulfed the sedan. The explosion came 3 seconds later, not the Hollywood fireball he'd expected, but a sharp crack and a burst of heat that sent glass and metal fragments whistling through the air. Something struck Jake's shoulder, sharp and hot. Something else grazed his cheek. When the world stopped spinning, Jake rolled off Olivia and collapsed beside her, gasping. His hands, Jesus, his hands looked like raw meat. The skin was already blistering, angry red welts forming across his palms and fingers. Sir, don't move." Paramedics swarmed them. 2 went straight to Olivia, checking her pulse, her breathing, shouting medical terms. Jake didn't understand. A 3rd crouched beside him, a woman with short, dark hair and worried eyes. "Let me see your hands," she said. "Check her first," Jake managed, his voice hoarse from smoke. "She was trapped in there. She's stable. Let me see your hands." Jake held them up. Even that small movement sent lightning bolts of pain shooting up his arms. The paramedic's expression tightened. 2nd-degree burns, maybe 3rd in some spots. "We need to get you to the hospital right now." "I can't." Jake tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. His vision swam. "I have to pick up my daughter, Mia. She's 9. I promised I'd get her from school early today for her dentist appointment. She's terrified of the dentist, and if I'm not there, she'll think I forgot about her again like, 'Sir, you need medical attention. What's the school's number?'" Jake rattled it off, his thoughts scattering like leaves in wind. Olivia was on a stretcher now, neck brace secured, IV line already in her arm. Even, unconscious and bloody, there was something about her that felt important. The way she was dressed, the car she'd been driving before, it became a twisted wreck. Everything screamed money. Real money, the kind Jake had only ever seen from a distance. "Mr. Foster?" A police officer stood over him, rain dripping from his cap. "That was one hell of a thing you just did." "Is she going to be okay?" Jake asked. "Thanks to you. Paramedics say another minute, and she wouldn't have made it." The officer glanced at the burning remains of the sedan, now being doused by firefighters. "You got a name for her? Any ID?" "Olivia. That's all I got." The paramedic returned, phone in hand. "School says they'll keep Mia in the office. They need to know who's picking her up." Jake's mind went blank. His sister lived in Ohio. His best friend Marco was working. Mrs. Chen next door didn't drive, and her hip had been bothering her. "I'll figure something out," Jake said, but his voice sounded weak, even to his own ears. "You're going to the hospital?" the paramedic said, not unkindly. "Now." They loaded him into an ambulance, and Jake caught one last glimpse of Olivia being wheeled toward a second vehicle. Her face was pale, almost grey, but her chest was rising and falling. Alive. She was alive. The doors closed and the sirens started, and Jake let his head fall back against the gurney. His phone buzzed in his pocket, definitely Mr. Patterson, probably firing him via text, but Jake couldn't bring himself to check. His hands hurt too much. Everything hurt too much. "Your daughter," the paramedic said, adjusting the IV in his arm. "The school gave me a number for emergency contacts." "A Marco Delgado?" "Yeah. He's my buddy from the shop. He's on his way to get her. Said to tell you not to worry. He's got this." Relief crashed through Jake so hard it almost hurt worse than the burns. "Thank you. God, thank you." As the ambulance raced through Brentford's rain-soaked streets, Jake stared at the ceiling and tried not to think about the hospital bill that would be waiting for him, or the job he'd probably just lost, or how he was going to explain to Mia that Daddy got hurt again, that life was scary and unpredictable, and sometimes you had to make impossible choices. He definitely wasn't thinking about Olivia, about the way she'd whispered her father's name like it was the most important thing in the world, about the expensive suit and the luxury car and the presentation she'd been so worried about. At Mercy General Hospital, they rushed Jake into treatment immediately. A nurse with gentle hands cleaned and dressed his burns, while a doctor examined his other injuries, cuts, bruises, a gash on his shoulder that needed 7 stitches. "You're lucky," the doctor said, which felt like a joke. "These burns are serious, but you'll heal. Might have some scarring. You'll need to keep them wrapped and dry for at least 2 weeks. No work that involves your hands." Jake laughed, a bitter sound. "I'm a mechanic. My hands are my work." The doctor's expression softened. "Then you'll need to take time off." Doctor's orders. Time off. As if Jake could afford that. As if rent would just pause itself and Mia's school lunches would magically appear and the electricity company would say, "Oh, you're injured? No problem. Pay us whenever." "Where's the woman?" Jake asked. "Olivia. Is she okay?" "I can't give out patient information," the doctor started, then seemed to reconsider. "But she's in surgery. Broken leg, possible internal injuries. You saved her life, Mr. Foster. No question about that." After the doctor left, Jake sat alone in the examination room, staring at his bandaged hands. They looked like white clubs attached to his wrists. Useless. He'd saved a stranger's life and lost his livelihood in the process. His phone buzzed. Marco. Brother, what the hell happened? Marco's voice was tight with worry. I got Mia. She's asking questions. What do I tell her? Tell her Daddy helped someone and he's okay. I'll be home soon. Patterson's losing his mind. He's saying, I know what he's saying. Jake closed his eyes. I'll deal with it. Jake, man, what you did. That was hero stuff. Heroes don't worry about rent, Marco. After they hung up, Jake waited for someone to discharge him, watching nurses and doctors rush past, watching other patients come and go. Somewhere in this hospital, Olivia was fighting for her life on an operating table. A woman he didn't know, a woman whose last name he hadn't even learned. A woman who, 3 days from now, would walk into Patterson's auto repair with a business proposition that would make Jake question everything he thought he knew about luck, fate, and second chances. But Jake didn't know that yet. Right now, all he knew was pain and fear and the crushing weight of consequences he couldn't afford. Right now, all he knew was that he'd made a choice on that rain-soaked highway, and there was no taking it back. 3 days later, Jake stood in front of the bathroom mirror, struggling to button his shirt with bandaged hands. Mia sat on the edge of the bathtub, watching him with those big brown eyes that looked too much like her mother's. Does it hurt? She asked quietly. A little, Jake lied. It hurt like hell. Every movement sent fire shooting through his palms. But I'm okay, sweetheart. I promise. Mrs. Chen said, you're a hero. She said you saved a lady from a burning car. Jake managed to get the last button through its hole and turned to face his daughter. I just did what anyone would do. That's not what the news said. Mia held up her tablet, showing him a local news article he hadn't seen yet. The headline read, Local mechanic risks life in dramatic highway rescue. There was a photo, grainy, taken from someone's phone of Jake pulling Olivia from the wreckage. When did you? Marco showed me yesterday. He said I should be proud of you. Mia's voice got smaller. But I was scared. What if you died like Mommy? Jake's heart cracked. He knelt down, ignoring the protest from his injured shoulder, and pulled Mia into a careful hug. I'm not going anywhere, baby. I promise. I'm right here. She buried her face in his neck, and Jake felt her tears soaking through his collar. They stayed like that for a long moment, father and daughter, holding on to each other like lifelines. We should go, Jake finally said, pulling back. Don't want to be late for school. But when Jake arrived at Patterson's auto repair 40 minutes later, something was wrong. The parking lot was full, every employee's car was there, which never happened, and there was a black Mercedes SUV parked in Mr. Patterson's spot, gleaming and expensive, and completely out of place. Jake's stomach tightened. This was it. Patterson was firing him in front of everyone, making an example. He pushed through the front door and found the entire staff, all 12 of them, crowded around the bulletin board in the break room. Marco spotted him first. Jake, man, you need to see this. If it's my termination notice, I already know. It's not that. Just read it. Jake pushed through the crowd, his heart hammering. Pinned to the board was a formal letter on expensive letterhead. Westfield Technologies, it said at the top, and below that, in neat corporate language, Patterson's Auto Repair has been acquired by Westfield Technologies, effective immediately. All current employees will be retained with improved benefits packages. New management will be introduced at a staff meeting today at 10 a.m. Jake read it twice, then a third time. Westfield Technologies? Who the hell is that? Big tech company, said Danny, one of the other mechanics. They've got offices in 3 states. Why would they want a little garage like ours? Maybe they're expanding into automotive, Marco suggested, but he didn't sound convinced. Mr. Patterson emerged from his office, looking pale and shell-shocked. Behind him came a woman in a sharp black suit, walking with a slight limp, a medical boot on her left foot. Jake's breath caught. It was her. Olivia. She looked different than she had in the wreckage, no blood, no torn clothes, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, but it was definitely her. The same face he'd seen hanging upside down in that crushed sedan, the same woman he'd dragged across broken glass and burning pavement. Everyone, this is Olivia Westfield, Mr. Patterson said, his voice strained. She's the CEO of Westfield Technologies and, as of yesterday, the new owner of this facility. The room erupted in whispers. Jake stood frozen, unable to process what he was hearing. Olivia's eyes swept across the gathered employees and stopped on Jake. Something flickered in her expression recognition, maybe gratitude, maybe something else entirely. "Thank you for gathering on short notice," she said, her voice clear and professional. "I know this is unexpected. I want to assure you that nothing about your employment will change negatively. In fact, you'll all see an increase in hourly wages, full health benefits, and a retirement matching program starting next month." More whispers, these ones excited. But Jake couldn't focus on any of it. All he could see was Olivia, alive and standing, when 3 days ago she'd been dying in his arms. "I also want to personally thank someone in this room," Olivia continued. Her eyes found Jake's again and held them. "Jake Foster. Without him, I wouldn't be here today. Jake, would you come up here, please?" Every head turned toward him. Jake's face burned. I don't think—" "Please," Olivia said, and there was something in her voice that wasn't a request. Jake walked to the front of the room on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. Up close, he could see the fading bruises on her forehead, carefully covered with makeup. Could see the way she favored her right leg. "Jake pulled me from a burning vehicle 3 days ago," Olivia told the room. "He suffered severe burns to his hands in the process. The doctors said if he'd waited even 30 more seconds, I would have died." She turned to face him directly. "I owe you my life, and I intend to repay that debt." "You don't owe me anything," Jake said quietly. "I'm just glad you're okay." "Nevertheless," Olivia reached into her suit jacket and pulled out an envelope. "This is for your medical expenses, all of them, and I'd like to offer you a position at Westfield Technologies as facilities manager. The salary is $80,000 a year, full benefits, company car, and flexible hours, so you can be there for your daughter." The room went completely silent. Jake stared at the envelope like it might explode. 80. What? 1,000 per year. Olivia held out the envelope. "You'd be overseeing maintenance and operations for all our properties in the region. It's a significant responsibility, but I believe you're more than capable." Jake's mind reeled. $80,000. He made $32,000 at the garage. And that was before Patterson docked him for being late or missing days when Mia was sick. "Miss Westfield, I don't have any experience in corporate management. I'm a mechanic. I fix transmissions and change oil. I can't—" "You made a split-second decision under pressure that saved my life," Olivia interrupted. "You stayed calm in a crisis. You put someone else's safety above your own. Those are the qualities I need in my team. The technical skills we can teach. The character?" She shook her head. "That you either have or you don't, and you have it." Jake looked at Marco, who was grinning like an idiot, looked at Danny and the others, who were watching with a mixture of shock and envy, looked back at Olivia, at this woman who'd appeared in his life like a comet, burning and brilliant and impossible. "I need to think about it," Jake heard himself say. Olivia nodded, unsurprised. "Of course. Take the envelope. Think it over. You have my card inside. Call me when you're ready to talk." The meeting ended shortly after, employees filing out in excited clusters, already gossiping about the changes. Jake stood there holding the envelope, trying to remember how to breathe. "Jake," Olivia's voice, softer now that they were alone. "Can we talk privately?" They ended up in Patterson's old office, Olivia's office now, Jake supposed. She lowered herself carefully into the desk chair, wincing as she adjusted her injured leg. "The doctors said I was lucky," she said. "Broken femur, 3 cracked ribs, concussion, internal bruising, but nothing that won't heal. Because of you. Anyone would have—" "No, they wouldn't have." Olivia's voice was firm. 6 cars passed that accident before you stopped. 6 people who decided their day was more important than a stranger's life. You didn't, and you paid a price for it." She gestured to his bandaged hands. "How bad?" "Second-degree burns. They'll heal." Jake shifted uncomfortably. "Miss Westfield. Olivia. Please. Olivia. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I can't accept charity. This isn't charity. It's a job offer based on merit." She leaned forward. "I've spent the last 3 days learning everything I could about you, Jake. You've worked here for 11 years. You're never late, except when your daughter needs you. You've got the highest customer satisfaction rating in this garage. You train new hires. You cover shifts when people call out sick. You're exactly the kind of person I want in my company. You investigated me? I do my homework. Always. Olivia pulled out a folder and slid it across the desk. This is the full job description. Look it over. Talk to your daughter. But Jake, I'm not offering you this job because I feel guilty. I'm offering it because I need someone I can trust. Someone who knows how to work hard. Someone who understands that doing the right thing matters more than doing the easy thing. Jake stared at the folder without touching it. Why buy this garage? You run a tech company. Because I looked into where you worked and found out Patterson was about to fire you for being late the day you saved my life. I couldn't let that stand. Olivia smiled slightly. Consider it a happy side effect. Plus, this location is perfect for a new service center we're planning. Everyone wins. Jake finally picked up the folder. Inside was a detailed job description, a benefits package that made his head spin, and a personal note in elegant handwriting. Thank you for my second chance. Let me help you find yours. O.W. I have a 9-year-old daughter, Jake said quietly. Her name is Mia. She lost her mom 2 years ago to cancer. I'm all she has. I can't risk our stability on something I might fail at. You won't fail. Olivia's voice was certain. And if you need time to adjust, if you need training, if you need anything at all, you'll have it. I take care of my people, Jake. Especially the ones who've proven they'll do the right thing, even when it costs them everything. Jake looked down at his bandaged hands, at the envelope on the desk, with enough money inside to wipe out his medical debt and probably pay 3 months of rent. Looked at this woman who'd crashed into his life literally and was now offering him a future he'd never dared to imagine. Can I give you an answer by Monday? He asked. Take all the time you need. Olivia stood, extending her hand, then noticed his bandages and smiled apologetically. I'll look forward to hearing from you, Jake Foster, whatever you decide. That night, Jake sat at their tiny kitchen table, the folder spread out in front of him. Mia was in bed, finally, after asking 1,000 questions about the lady from the car. His phone rang. Marco. So, what are you going to do? I don't know, Jake admitted. It's too much, Marco. $80,000? A company car? What if I screw it up? What if I'm not smart enough for that world? Brother, you pulled a woman out of a burning car with your bare hands. You think filling out spreadsheets is scarier than that? Jake laughed, despite himself. When you put it that way. Look, I've known you for 15 years. You're the hardest working guy I know. You deserve this. Mia deserves this. Stop thinking and just say yes. After they hung up, Jake walked to Mia's room and cracked the door open. She was asleep, her nightlight casting soft shadows across her face. She looked so peaceful, so safe. What kind of father would he be if he turned down a chance to give her a better life? A real house instead of this cramped apartment, better schools, college fund, all the things he'd dreamed of but never thought possible. But what kind of father would he be if he took a risk that blew up in his face and left them worse off than before? Jake pulled out his phone and stared at Olivia's business card. Her number was right there. He could call, could say yes, could change everything. His thumb hovered over the screen, and somewhere across town, in a penthouse apartment that overlooked the city, Olivia Westfield stood at her window, staring out at the lights of Brentford. Her leg ached, her ribs ached. Everything ached, but she was alive. She thought about the man who'd saved her, about his bandaged hands and his humble refusal of her gratitude, about the way he'd looked at that job offer like it was both a gift and a trap. She thought about second chances and what they meant, what they cost, what they were worth. Her phone sat on the counter behind her, silent, both of them waiting, both of them wondering, both of them on the edge of something that would change everything. If you're enjoying this story of courage, transformation, and second chances, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got more incredible tales that'll restore your faith in humanity. But first, let's see what Jake decides. Monday morning arrived with the kind of sunshine that felt wrong for a life-changing decision. Jake stood outside the Westfield Technologies building downtown, a glass and steel tower that seemed to scrape the clouds. His hands were still bandaged, though lighter wrappings now. The burns were healing, but the scars would be permanent. Just like this choice. He'd called Olivia on Saturday night, said yes. And now here he was, about to walk into a world he didn't understand, wearing the only dress shirt he owned and pants Mia had helped him iron that morning. "You can do this, Daddy," she'd told him, her small hands smoothing the fabric. "You're brave. You saved that lady. You can do anything." Jake pulled out his phone and looked at the photo he'd taken of them this morning, Mia grinning with her gap-toothed smile, making a thumbs up. He took a breath, put the phone away, and pushed through the revolving doors. The lobby was all marble and modern art, and the kind of quiet that money bought. A receptionist smiled at him from behind a curved desk. "Jake Foster," he said, his voice smaller than he'd intended. "I'm supposed to meet with Miss Westfield." "Of course, Mr. Foster. She's expecting you." 30th floor. The elevator ride felt like it lasted forever. Jake watched the numbers climb, watched his reflection in the polished doors, a mechanic playing dress-up, about to be found out as a fraud. The doors opened to reveal Olivia standing in the hallway, no longer in the medical boot. She smiled. "Jake, you came. I said I would. I know. But I also know how scary this must be." She gestured down the hall. "Come on, let me show you around before we get into the boring paperwork." She led him through open-plan offices where people tapped at computers, through conference rooms with walls of windows, through a break room that looked nicer than Jake's entire apartment. Everyone they passed nodded at Olivia with respect. But Jake noticed something else too. They looked happy. Not the stressed, miserable expressions he'd seen in office buildings before. Actually happy. "Employee satisfaction is everything," Olivia said, as if reading his mind. "You can't build a great company with miserable people. I learned that from my father. He started Westfield Technologies 30 years ago, in his garage. Built it from nothing." Olivia's expression softened. "He retired 6 months ago, handed me the keys and said, 'Try not to crash it.' Then I literally crashed 3 days into my first solo business trip to Brentford." Jake almost laughed. How is he taking that? He was terrified when he got the call. Flew in from Florida immediately. Olivia stopped at a corner office with windows on 2 sides. "This is yours." Jake stared. The office was bigger than his living room. There was a real wooden desk, a leather chair, a couch, and a view of the entire city. "This can't be mine. This is an executive office. You are an executive. Facilities manager is a director-level position." Olivia walked to the desk and picked up a framed photo she'd placed there. "I took the liberty. Hope you don't mind." It was the picture from the news, Jake pulling Olivia from the wreckage, smoke and flames in the background. But it had been professionally printed and matted. "Why would you frame that?" Jake asked. "Because it reminds me what matters. When I'm dealing with budgets and board meetings and all the corporate nonsense, I look at that and remember, none of it means anything if you're not alive to experience it." "You gave me that reminder." She set the frame down carefully. "Now, I'm giving you this opportunity. Not because I owe you, because I believe in you." Over the next week, Jake learned what it meant to be a facilities manager. He met with department heads, reviewed building maintenance schedules, coordinated with contractors. It was overwhelming and exhausting and completely different from anything he'd ever done. But Olivia was there. Every time Jake felt himself drowning, she'd appear with patient explanations and steady encouragement. She introduced him to people who could help, gave him resources, answered questions he felt stupid for asking. "There are no stupid questions," she told him on Wednesday, when he'd apologized for the 5th time. "You're learning a new language. Give yourself time. Don't you have CEO things to do?" Jake asked. "Instead of babysitting me?" "You're not babysitting. You're an investment I care about." Olivia smiled. "Besides, teaching you this stuff? It's the least stressful part of my day. Everything else is budgets and projections and people wanting things. With you, it's simple. You want to learn. You work hard. You care about doing it right. That's refreshing." By Friday, Jake was starting to feel like maybe, possibly, he might not completely fail. He'd coordinated a successful repair of the HVAC system on the 15th floor. He'd negotiated a better rate with the cleaning service. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. He was packing up to leave early. For once, to pick up Mia from school himself when Olivia knocked on his office door. "Got a minute?" "Of course." She sat on the couch, looking more tired than Jake had seen her. "There's a company gala next month. Annual thing, big donors, board members, all the people who keep Westfield Technologies running. I'd like you to be there." Jake's stomach dropped. I'm not asking you to give a speech. Just attend. Let people meet you. You're part of this company now, Jake. A valued part." She paused. "And I'm planning to publicly acknowledge what you did for me. You deserve that recognition." "I don't want recognition. I just want to do my job." "I know. That's exactly why you deserve it." Olivia stood. "Bring Mia. There'll be other kids there. She should see what her father's accomplished." That night at dinner, Jake told Mia about the gala. Her eyes went wide. "Like a fancy party? With dresses?" "Yeah, a really fancy party. Can I get a new dress? A princess one?" Mia was practically bouncing in her seat. "And you'll be there? Not working late?" "I'll be right there with you. Promise." Mia launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck. "This is the best thing ever, Daddy. Mom would be so proud of you." Jake held his daughter and tried not to cry. Maybe she was right. Maybe Sarah would be proud. Proud that he'd survived their loss. Proud that he was building something new. Proud that he'd found the courage to risk everything for a stranger and ended up changing their lives. The weeks blurred together. Jake grew more confident in his role, started making decisions without second-guessing every detail. The other executives began treating him as an equal instead of Olivia's charity case. He moved Mia into a better apartment, nothing fancy, but bigger, safer, in a neighborhood with good schools. And through it all, Olivia was there. Not hovering, not micromanaging, but present. She'd stop by Jake's office to ask his opinion on facility issues. She'd invite him to strategy meetings where his practical perspective often cut through corporate jargon. She had lunch with him and Mia one Saturday, and Jake watched his daughter light up as Olivia talked about science and technology and all the things women could do in the world. "I like her," Mia told Jake that night. "She's smart, and she listens when I talk, like I'm a real person instead of just a kid." "She is pretty special," Jake admitted. "Do you like her?" Mia asked, in that way kids did when they were fishing for something. "She's my boss, sweetheart." "That's not what I asked." Jake looked at his daughter, at her knowing smile, and realized she saw something he'd been trying not to acknowledge. That when Olivia walked into a room, his heart beat a little faster. That he looked for excuses to stop by her office. That he thought about her at night, wondered about her, cared about her in ways that went beyond professional gratitude. "It's complicated," Jake finally said. "Grown-ups always say that when the answer is yes," Mia replied, and Jake couldn't argue. The night of the gala arrived. Jake stood in front of the mirror in a rented tuxedo, barely recognizing himself. Mia twirled in her new blue dress, giggling. "We look fancy, Daddy." "We really do, kiddo." The gala was held in the grand ballroom of the Brentford Plaza Hotel, chandeliers and champagne, and people who belonged in magazines. Jake felt like an imposter again, but then Mia grabbed his hand and squeezed. "You belong here," she whispered, like she could read his mind. "You saved her life. That makes you the most important person in this whole room." They found their table near the front. Marco was there too, invited as Jake's guest, looking uncomfortable in his suit but grinning. "Look at us," Marco said. "Couple of grease monkeys at the fancy party." "Don't sell yourself short," came a voice behind them. Olivia appeared in a stunning emerald dress, her hair down for the first time since Jake had met her. She looked breathtaking. "Jake's not a grease monkey anymore. He's the best facilities manager I've ever had. And Marco, I hear you're being promoted to shop supervisor at the new service center." Marco's eyes went wide. "What? Didn't Jake tell you? We're expanding operations. I need someone who knows automotive inside and out to run it. 30% pay increase, full benefits. If you're interested." Are you kidding?" "Yes, absolutely yes." Olivia laughed, then turned to Mia. "And you must be the famous Mia. Your dad talks about you constantly." "He does?" Mia beamed. "All the time. I need to leave on time for Mia. I can't do early meetings because of Mia's school. Mia would think this is cool." Olivia crouched down to Mia's level. "He's a really good dad. You're lucky." "I know," Mia said. "Seriously. And you're lucky too, because he saved you." "I am. Very lucky." Olivia's eyes met Jake's over Mia's head, and something passed between them, understanding, connection, something that made Jake's breath catch. The dinner was incredible. The speeches were bearable. And then Olivia took the stage for her keynote address. 3 months ago, she began, I almost died on Highway 7. My car flipped. Gasoline was everywhere. Fire was spreading. And I'd resigned myself to the fact that this was how my story ended. She paused, scanning the crowd. But one man refused to accept that ending. Jake Foster didn't know who I was, didn't know if I was rich or poor, important or ordinary. He just knew I needed help. And despite the danger, despite his own injuries, despite every rational reason to drive away, he pulled me from that wreckage and saved my life. The room was completely silent now. Jake, could you stand, please? Jake's face burned as he stood, every eye in the room on him. In the 3 months since that day, Jake has proven that his courage wasn't a one-time thing. He took a leap of faith, accepted a position in a field he'd never worked in, and excelled beyond anyone's expectations. He learns quickly. He works tirelessly. He treats everyone with respect, from the CEO to the custodial staff. He embodies everything. Westfield Technologies stands for integrity, dedication, and the belief that doing the right thing matters more than taking the easy path. Olivia raised her glass. To Jake Foster, who reminds us all what real courage looks like. The room erupted in applause. Jake stood there, overwhelmed, as hundreds of people celebrated him. He saw Mia crying happy tears, saw Marco whooping, saw Olivia smiling at him with something in her eyes that looked a lot like pride. When he sat down, his hands were shaking. Mia threw her arms around him. I'm so proud of you, Daddy. So proud. After dinner, the dancing started. Jake stood at the edge of the ballroom, watching couples swirl across the floor when Olivia appeared beside him. You okay? That was a lot of attention. Yeah, I'm not used to this. Jake gestured at the opulent room. 3 months ago, I was worried about making rent. Now I'm at a gala in a tuxedo, being called a hero. It doesn't feel real. It's real. You earned every bit of it. Olivia was quiet for a moment. My father always told me that the measure of a person isn't what they have. It's what they do when everything's on the line. You could have driven past that accident. Most people would have. But you didn't. And that choice, that one moment of courage, changed everything. It changed everything for both of us, Jake said softly. Yeah, it did. Olivia turned to face him fully. Jake, I need to tell you something. This job offer, the recognition tonight, none of it was about repaying a debt. I don't see you as someone I owe. I see you as someone I admire, someone I trust, someone I... She stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. Someone I care about. A lot. Jake's heart hammered. Olivia, I know, you're my employee. It's complicated. Inappropriate, probably. But I can't help how I feel, and I don't want to spend the next year pretending I don't. She stopped, as the music changed to something slow and sweet. Dance with me? I'm not very good at dancing. Neither am I. We'll figure it out together. Jake took her hand, the scars on his palm pressed against her smooth skin, and led her onto the dance floor. They swayed together, neither of them graceful, both of them smiling. Thank you, Olivia whispered. For what? For stopping, for not driving past, for being brave enough to risk everything for someone you didn't know. She rested her head against his shoulder. For giving me a second chance at life. And for letting me give you one too. Jake held her a little closer, watching Mia dance with Marco nearby, both of them laughing, watching the life he'd built from ashes and courage and one impossible choice. I think we gave each other second chances, Jake said. Yeah, Olivia agreed. I think we did. The song ended, but they stayed on the dance floor, holding each other, two people who'd found something unexpected in the wreckage, hope, opportunity, and the beginning of something that looked a lot like love. Mia ran up to them, breathless and grinning. Daddy, Miss Olivia, can we get ice cream on the way home? Please. Olivia laughed. I know a place that's open late. My treat. You don't have to, Jake started. I know. I want to. Olivia took Jake's hand in one of hers and Mia's in the other. Come on, let's go celebrate. They walked out of the gala together, a single dad, his daughter, and the woman he'd saved, who'd ended up saving him right back. Outside, the night was clear, stars visible despite the city lights. Somewhere across town, the twisted remains of that black sedan sat in a salvage yard, a monument to the time. Moment everything changed. But Jake wasn't thinking about that. He was thinking about ice cream and laughter and the way Olivia's hand felt in his. He was thinking about second chances and new beginnings and the fact that sometimes, when you choose courage over fear, you don't just save a life, you transform your own. 6 months later, Jake would ask Olivia to dinner. Not as employee and boss, but as two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way. A year after that, Mia would be a flower girl at their wedding, beaming as she scattered rose petals down the aisle. But that night, they just got ice cream. Sat in a corner booth at an all-night diner, Mia between them, chocolate smeared on her face, talking about school and science and all the dreams she had for the future. And Jake realized that this was it. This was happiness. Not the money or the fancy office or the recognition. Just this, his daughter laughing, a woman who saw the best in him holding his scarred hand. Under the table, and the knowledge that he'd made the right choice when it mattered most. "What are you thinking about?" Olivia asked, noticing his smile. "That I'd do it all again," Jake said. "Every bit of it. The fire, the burns, the fear, all of it. Because it led here. To a diner at midnight eating ice cream? To this moment. With you. With Mia. To this life I never imagined I could have." Jake squeezed her hand. "Yeah, I'd do it all again." Olivia leaned over and kissed his cheek, soft and sweet and full of promise. "Good thing you won't have to. Because I'm not going anywhere." "Me neither," Jake said. "Me neither," Mia echoed, giggling. And there, in that ordinary diner, on an ordinary Monday night, three people who'd found each other through extraordinary circumstances sat together, eating ice cream and building something beautiful from the ashes of what had been. Because sometimes courage doesn't just save a life. Sometimes it changes everything. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that one brave choice can transform your entire world, do me a favor, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me about a time you chose courage over fear. Share this with someone who needs to remember that heroes don't wear capes, they just show up when it matters most. And remember, you never know when your moment will come, when you'll face that choice between driving past or stopping, between safety and courage, between the life you have and the life you could build. When that moment comes, I hope you choose bravely. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next story.